Hello, my name is Eric Kelly. I am a finance professor in the Haslam College of Business at the University of Tennessee. And this is a walkthrough video of the stock portfolios case. This is the case that we used in the individual student final round of the Excel on Rocky Top competition at the University of Tennessee in the spring of 2024. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at this case so we can see what we're dealing with. So in this case, students had 30 minutes to get as far as they can get. And the case, it mimics some basic reporting within a investment advisory firm context. And so you'll see that when you scroll through the case, this case takes on the typical eSports format that has a single column of answers with multiple levels. And so we've got some bonus questions at the top, and then we've got levels 1 through 8. Each has an example with some instructions, set of data, and some answer blanks. And as we'll see later, these levels get progressively more difficult. Now, I do want to quickly note that the first 3 levels, so level 1, level 2, and level 3, all use portfolio return calculations, and you're given the actual data. Okay? But then once you get into level 4 and beyond, you're going to use the types of calculations that you've done levels 1, 2, and 3, but you're going to actually have to look up the data based on a stock's ticker, and that data is in 4 different tables over here in the case data tab. And so as I start, we're just going to work through levels 1 through 3 first, and ignore all that extra data. So we'll just get the calculations down in this first step. Let's hit level 1. So level 1, you're just practicing a basic stock return calculation, and notice that you are given 3 columns of data. A P0, that's a starting price. A D1 is a dividend that's paid over period 1. And a P1, that's an ending price at the end of period 1. And so the return calculation that we're after is P1 plus D1 minus P0 all over P0. That's easy enough to calculate with cell references. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do it with the example first, and I'm going to calculate everything over here in a separate column just so I can practice doing the calculations and then copying and pasting the answers over into the blanks. Alternatively, you could just enter the formulas in these blanks as well. That's completely up to you. Okay, so just trying the example, my calculation I know is going to be P1 plus D1 minus P0, close my parentheses, and divide by P0. Okay, that looks right. Now, since I use cell references, I can copy this all the way down, and I've got the entire return series. So those are my answers. So I'm going to copy and paste values over. That's going to be my standard practice for this type of challenge. So Control C, Alt E, S, V, paste my values, paste them all in. And in this version of the file, I've got these check circles, so I can see that I got all of those answers correct. So I've now accomplished level 1. Moving on down to level 2. So in level 2, we're going to calculate a portfolio return. Now, this particular portfolio, and there's going to be a different portfolio in each line, this particular portfolio is an equal weighted portfolio. So the return for the portfolio is just an equal weighted average of the returns across all stocks. And just quickly scanning what we have here, see that we've got 20 different stocks. And so I just need to average the returns along this row. And again, I'm going to practice out here to the side to see if I get this right. So in this cell here, I'm going to say equals average. And select the row of data. Now notice I've got a 0. It's probably because I've got a problem with my formats over here. So I'm going to go 13%. And we'll add some decimals over there to see if we got that right. So 13.45. Okay, that looks good. Now I can follow the same process as earlier. Copy this down. Delete that one. Copy everything over. And I've got the returns for each one of the portfolios. So now I'm through level 2. So moving along pretty quickly here through these easy levels. Now we're at level 3, so now I'm going to calculate a portfolio again, but the difference here is it's no longer an equal weighted portfolio. It's a little bit more realistic. And so in this top row, I've got the position values, the starting positions. So I'm going to base the weights on those starting values. Caveat is the weights all need to sum to 1. So I'm going to do some summing and a sum product. So sum product. We'll go with this array here. So there's my starting dollars. And since I'm going to copy down, I want to anchor all these because I'm using the same starting values for each one of these portfolios. So I'll hit F4 and anchor those cells. And now I need to multiply by this row. Okay, so that's not the right answer. I still need to scale it by the sum of the starting values to make my weights sum to 1. So I'm going to divide by sum of all of these weights, again anchoring those cells, and go percent 5.58. That does look like the right value. So we'll copy these formulas down for all the portfolios. And copy over the values. And once again, I am correct. So I'm through levels 1, 2, and 3. So as I've read the case, I've recognized that when I move into levels 4 and beyond, I still have to calculate individual stock returns and then combine stocks into portfolios. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently because I'm not actually given the values here. I'm given a list of tickers and ultimately a list of number of shares in each position. And so the challenge now is going to be to go over to this case data tab. And I'll see I've got essentially 4 tables or chunks of data. And we have to combine all that data together based on the ticker and get the appropriate information so I can calculate the returns that I need. And so in particular, notice I've got 2022 data, 2023 data. These are the prices. And so this price here is going to be my P0. And the one here is going to be my P1. And then finally, I've got dividends. And so this column is going to be D1. Again, all of them have tickers. All the tables have tickers. And so the tables are connectable based on that field. The other thing to note is we have in this first column a list of what we're calling the investable securities. So those are the only securities that can ever go into the building of portfolios. And when you scroll down, you'll see that the tables to the right have a lot more data than what's in the investable ticker list. I'll also note that the data are even messier than that, because in the 2022 data, we have one set of securities. In the 2023 data, it's not the exact same number, because you're going to have stocks that come in and come out during 2023. And then finally, in the dividend column, you're only going to have a record if a stock actually pays dividends. Lots of stocks pay exactly 0 dividends. They're not going to show up into that table. And so you're going to have to deal with that messiness of the data when you're calculating returns. So my recommendation on the front end is going to be to spend a little bit of time over here with this data and go ahead and combine everything and create one master table that gets you the return for every single security in the investable securities list. And then you can do your lookups based on that single table. So I'll demonstrate that next. So in order to keep things nice and clean, I'm going to copy this tab over so that I can still preserve the original case. So I'm going to add a few columns. So I know I'm going to need a P0, a P1, and a D1. I also want another column for the return that I'm going to calculate. And then I took a peek at the bonus questions. I know that I'm also going to need a column for a zip code. No, it's not a zip code, it's a state. And then I'm going to need a column for shares outstanding, and then I'm going to calculate market cap. So that's what I ultimately want. And so I'll make a little header row that describes the data that I designed. So I want P0, I want P1, D1. I'm going to calculate a return. I would like shares. I'm going to calculate market cap, ATCAP, and then I'd also like state. So I'm going to go and get all of that data right now, and I'll use it here in a moment. Okay, and so when I do these lookups, I'm going to use a nice functionality in the XLOOKUP function. Instead of looking for a single value, I can actually pass it an array of values. That avoids having to copy stuff down on the back end. So I'll demonstrate that here with the looking for P0. I'm going to say XLOOKUP. So again, instead of looking for a single value, I'm going to give it this entire array. The lookup array, so where am I going to look? So for P0, I need to go over here into this first table, select that entire first column. What am I going to return? I'm going to return the price out of that column. There, I've returned my price. And again, I don't have to copy because I look for the entire array. So now I've filled the entire P0 column. I'm going to do the same thing for P1. Of course, I'm going to the 2023 table now, find P1. And I'll return price from that table. Now let's get a dividend. Over to the dividend table. I'll look in the ticker array. And return from the dividend array. Now I got to be a little careful here because there's going to be some of my investable tickers that don't have a value here. And all that means is the dividend is 0. So I can use this extra optional parameter. If not found parameter, I'm going to put a 0 here. It's going to be a 0 if it can't find a dividend. And so there I do see I have some dividends there. Okay. Let's go ahead and fill in these other values. I'm going to get the shares. And this is for one of the bonus questions. You'll see that here in a moment. Shares are in this first table. There's my shares. And I need the state as well. Also for a bonus question. State, I've got a state in this table, so we'll look based on ticker and return state. Okay, almost done over here with my main table. Let's calculate a return. Now, since I've got arrays coming in here, I can reference the entire array instead of referencing a single row and copy it down. So I'm after P1 plus D1 minus P0 all scaled by P0. So P1 is in this column. If I add a pound, that's going to reference the entire array. Going to copy, it's only going to return a spilled array that has a return for every single row. So I need to add the dividend, select the entire column, and then minus the original price. And then I'm going to scale by the original price. So now I have my return array built. Okay, so to name all the variables in this table, I'm going to select the entire top row and then select the body of the table and then go into formulas and say create from selection. I want the top row to be my names. Okay. So I've got a variable name in the name manager for each one of those columns. So do that. Now I've got my names already. So that's going to make it really easy to look up values in case. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to go back and knock out these bonuses real quick. So bonus 1, how many tickers are on the list of investable stocks? Count A, count all, everything there. There's my 434, so Control C, Alt E, S, E, paste the value there. What fraction of investable securities paid 0 dividends in 2023? That ought to be pretty easy in this table. So that's my dividend. So we'll do a count if. That range equal to 0, 82. So the fraction is 82 divided by 434. Grab that value. Paste it in there. What's the combined December 2022 market cap of the largest 10 firms on the investable stock list? All right, looks like I forgot to calculate market cap earlier, so we'll do that real quickly. So that's going to equal the beginning price times shares. And the 10th largest, I'll use the large function. 10. There's the 10th largest value. And let's sum if. Condition is you're greater than or equal to the market cap that I just found for the 10th largest firm. Now, if I want to concatenate the string here, which is what I need to do for this argument, and I'm going to use a cell reference, the ampersand in front and reference cell. And there's my answer. Well, copy that value. Paste that in. That's good. And then finally, equal rate of return for all investable stocks with a headquarters in the state of Tennessee. So I'm going to use the return column and then the state column. I'm going to look for a TN in the state. So we'll do equals average if. Here's my if range. State needs to equal Tennessee. And the column that I'm going to average is the return column. Control C. And put that in, so I've nailed the bonuses. All right, so now let's hit level 4. And level 4 is going to go really fast because I've done two things. One, I've created that big table that already has the returns calculated in it. And two, I've created those variable names. So I've named the columns already. So I've got a ticker column and I've got a return column. So instead of looking for a column, I'm just going to look everything up based on variable names. So equals X, look up. Here's the ticker that I'm looking for. Where am I looking? I'm looking in that first column of the table, but I named it ticker. I'm going to look in ticker, so their ticker pops up. Cell recognizes it, and I'm going to return the column that I labeled return. Return is there, and that returns my 48.91%. Copy this down. Check these answers real quick. Copy paste values, and level 4 is complete. All right, so now that we are on to level 5, we're going to utilize a neat little trick in 5, 6, 7, and 8 that involves getting everything set up correctly in the example and then running that solution through a data table such that we repeat the process for each game in level. The easiest way to get you acquainted with this is by a simple demonstration. And so we'll do that now. So let's go over where we have a little bit of extra space over here to the side of level 5. And so I'm going to just write example 5 here. And the reason I'm putting example 5 here is because I'm going to use a lookup function to replicate all the data that's presented for 5. So I'm going to say equals X lookup. I'm going to look for whatever is in this cell. I'm going to go back and look in this array containing the game numbers, one of which is example 5. And then we're going to return the block of data that represents the input for that level. And so again, I've essentially just replicated everything over here to the right. Now, what's the process for level 5? Well, the process for level 5, going back over here, we can see that we want an equal weighted portfolio return for a portfolio that has those tickers in it. And so step 1, we need to get the returns for each one of those tickers. And then step 2, we want to average them. So let's get that right the first time, and then we'll do it over and over again for everyone involved. So there's my ticker list. Let's grab the stock return first. So let's do an X lookup And let's feed it the list of tickers, and using my named ranges from earlier, I'm going to look up the ticker, and I'm going to bring back the return. And so there's my returns. So the solution is just going to be the average of everything above. Now, let's go do a data table. I'm going to point to my solution cell right here, and already I can tell, change my format just a bit, make this look a little bit nicer. And by the way, that is the correct answer for the example, so I'm on the right track. Okay, so I know I'm going to use games 81 through 100 here. Set up a list of those. I need 20 rows, one column starting at 81. There is my 81 through 100. And this is pointing back here, so I've got the solution there. Now I'm ready to set up a data table. So I'm going to say Alt D T to get my data table. My column input cell is the one that I'm interested in. So it's this column of values that I want to sub in for what? I want to sub it in for that value right there. Okay. Now, notice I don't have any values. That's just because my data table is not updating automatically. So I'll hit F9 to get it to update. And there are my answers. So I've redone this entire process over and over again, just switching from example 5 through all the rounds in this level. Control Shift, copy, paste values, and they are all correct. Now on to level 6. Level 6 looks almost identical to level 5, except you're not given tickers and cells. You're given a single text string. It's semicolon delimited. So we need to just add an extra step on the front end that parses that string and sets them up into cells. So we'll go over and do our X lookup once again. So I'm going to say example 6. And here we'll say equals X. Lookup for that value. Pull from here. And these are all just in that first row or that first column. I'll return these guys. Okay, and looks like the columns over here. Cells I'm wrapping. I'll turn that off. Looks a little bit nicer. Okay, a little bit wider so I can see that. And there I've got my original values. All right, so first step then, let's parse the string. Looks like I'm now centered across this selection. So sometimes you'll end up with these little formatting things that are a little bit more difficult. So you got to pay attention there. So let's get to the ticker list. Tickers. So here I'm going to say text split. Text split, very nice function. Give it the text. And the column delimiter is here a semicolon, no spaces before or after it. That gets me to my row of tickers. Next step, what I had before. Okay, so here I can X lookup. Now I can give it the entire array. I'm going to look in ticker and bring back turn. For these, we do need to select them all with the number formatting, percent formatting, decimals, just to make sure it all looks okay. And then the solution here is it's an average of everything that I grabbed, or change that to a percentage format. Now let's just check and see if that's right. Yep, 24%, that looks good. Okay, so sample 6, point over here to the solution. And again, change my formatting. Easy to observe. In this level, I'm going 20 more rows, one column, and I'm starting at 101. Ready for a data table. My column input cell is going to be this one. And F9. Things updated. Copy my values. And I have 100% of the answers correct. Right now, we're on to levels 7 and 8. And 7 and 8 are just more complicated versions of 5 and 6. So the portfolio we're interested in is now becoming a valuated portfolio. And to get to the value weights here, we're actually given a number of shares. So we'll have to multiply shares by a price that we can look up to get to the market values of the positions. And then if you look closely at the string here that we have to parse, it's now in the format of X shares of Y, semicolon, X shares of Y, semicolon. And so we can use the text split again, but then we'll have to do a little bit more to pull out the position share numbers and separate those from the tickers. But we'll start out by just setting up our lookup function and the table that we're gonna end up using. So we'll type example 7 out here, and I'm going to look up my game number. I'm going to look for my game number in that column, and I'll return the text string. Okay, so they're already going well. Okay, so let's start. Let's parse this in two ways. Let's start by let's start by just parsing based on semicolons. We'll call this parse 1 text split. Give it this list here, and I'm going to parse it by semicolon. Okay, so now in each cell, I've got one single position. It's got shares of. Okay, so next I want to take this this list of parsed cells and separate them further into the number of shares and the ticker. We'll have the shares on this row and the ticker here. I'm going to use the text before and text after cells or formulas on these values to get the results. So equals text Okay, so I noticed that in each one of the cells above, the number of shares precedes the character space SHR. And so I can just do a text before function, give it the cell above as string, and say text before space shares equals text before. Now it wants text. Now this should also operate on an array. So I'm going to operate on this cell by cell. So I'll give it the entire range as the argument. So I'll avoid having to copy later. The delimiter here is just going to be something in the middle. So I'll do space SHR. All right, so now I'm almost there on this line, but one thing that I notice is this is actually giving me 300 as text, not as a value. I can fix that really easily by just multiplying it by 1. Anytime you take something that Excel reads as text and you do a simple mathematical operator on it, it will try to convert it to a number, and that's exactly what it did. All right, now let's get the tickers. So equals text after. So now I'm going to use text after because I know that after the word of and a space, we have the ticker. So again, I'm going to let this take in the entire array to avoid having to copy a little bit later on. My delimiter here is going to be the word of followed by a space. Close my parentheses, and there I've got my list of tickers. All right, so all I've got to do in this level is calculate the market value of each position, then add them up. It's going to get me market value total per portfolio. So I need one more piece of information. That is the price. That's the beginning price. So that would be P0 in my name array. So I'm going to X look up this array of tickers. I'm going to look in ticker, and I'm going to return P0. And there's my array of prices. The market value of the position, then, is simply the number of shares. Again, I'm operating on arrays. So I can do this element by element times the price. So there's my market values of each position. And so the solution to this level is the sum of all of these market values. So 132, 1624. Let's go take a quick peek. Correct. So now I can set up my data table. For example, 7. I'm going to point to my solution cell, and we've got 20 rows again, 1 column, and I believe we're starting at 121. Should be ready now to do a data table. My column input cell here is the AT250. Hit F9 to update my table. And that is my list of market values. Copy that over. And they are all correct. Now to the final level, level 8, we'll see that once again, we've got a list of positions in the exact same format as before. And so we can take what we did to parse the positions and just transfer it down to this level. And then the extra thing that we need in order to calculate portfolio returns is we need a list of the returns from the individual securities. And then we can calculate the weights because we already know how to do that based on the market value positions, and then calculate the portfolio return as a weighted average. So let's see if, since I didn't do any absolute references, I believe I can take at least this part of my work from above and copy it down and use that template again. Of course, example 7 is not in the reference cell. Let's go to example 8. And so now I've got example 8 pulled up. Okay. So I'm almost there. This obviously is not the solution. It's not the sum of the market values. I need, in order to get to the solution, I need the returns. Let's look up the returns. Equals X. Look up. Again, I'm going to look in the ticker list. Look in the ticker array. I'm going to bring back the return array. And there are my returns. All right, my solution here is a weighted average return where the market values determine the weights. So using what I did early on in this case, I'm going to say some product multiply, see this array. So those are the market values of the positions. And there's the second array. Now, those weights don't sum to 1, so I need to divide all of this by the sum of the market values, and that ought to get my weight summing to 1. Let's just check and see if that's right. 4.34%. That is the correct answer. And so let's go and set up a data table and be done. So we'll say example 8 equals solution. I'm going to bring this down here. I need my 20 rows, 1 column. I'm going to start at 141 and Alt-D-T. Column input cell is going to be this one, and F9 to update my values. These should be my answers. And look at that, green check marks everywhere. And this case is complete.